Hey everybody, welcome back to another edition of E2C Network Live, place where we get together, we talk about what's going on in the world of the Auburn family spectrum. We're always heavy on the sports here on this channel, but if it's orange and blue, it is what we do. Thank you for joining us, whether you're watching live or on the replay. We appreciate you hanging out with us, even for just a few minutes of your time to talk about what we love about being part of the Auburn family. Usually something about sports related. On this live stream, it's a post-game on the road reaction stream to the events of A-Day. That is what we were going to be talking about, the football game, our impressions and reactions of that. And I want to hear from you guys throughout the stream. So don't be shy. Please do share some of those comments and questions as they come into your mind, and we'll talk about some of those things. Not a lot of stats discussion, things like that, just initial overarching thought processes of what we saw, what we think we saw. It's A-Day after all. So that's going to be really what's on the table. A couple things you can do for me as we get the stream started tonight. Make sure right now, if you can, whether you're watching in Facebook, Twitter, all that stuff, hit the like button. It does help share this out to other Auburn fans. If you're in the chat right now, even if you're on the replay, post where you're watching from. This is our check-in period. Make sure you post where you're watching from, city, state, international, all of that stuff, so we know who's watching and from where right now. So you can do that, and then we'll talk about some of your comments and questions throughout the thing. Listen, A-Day for me is always one of the best events of the year. I know it may seem a little bit counterintuitive simply because of it's a spring game, right? Not a lot of people are super excited about spring games. A lot of people don't even really want to attend them. A lot of people even forgot that it was A-Day. Can I just address this? The amount of people that forgot it was A-Day was starting to bother me. Just a little bit. I get it, everybody kind of shuts that part of their brain off at a certain point in the year, especially the way the football program performed this year. But for me, I always look forward to A-Day weekend because it is the whole of the Auburn experience. See a lot of you checking in now. Good to see a lot of our regulars here. Thomas, see you. War Eagle from Lee's, good to see you. That's the good thing about even on the road when we do these. Let me know how the sound and everything, any kind of problems like that, let me know, because this is kind of our on the road kit that we're using right now. The crowd in terms of A-Day, pretty decent compared to what I thought it could have been. I think it could have gone one of two ways. Nobody could have showed up. They had every excuse not to do that with the weather the way it was. Now, the sun was basically shining the entirety of the game, but leading up to it today, the weather, I'm putting together a vlog for this weekend. Whew! It was windy, it was cold, it was not your typical A-Day game. I've been to many A-Day games. I've been to ones in sweltering heat, in the rain. I've been to A-Day games in the most beautiful weather, like the most mildest you ever could. But I've not been to one that was this cold. Like my face is wind burned. That's like I can feel it right now burned. But the fans showed out and the fans showed up, which was a huge thing right there. Carrie is asking, did you like what you saw from Dawson? Honestly, this is just off, this is a reaction show. This is kind of me gathering my thoughts. The only thing that I remember of Dawson is him dropping what was a surefire touchdown pass from TJ Finley. I believe it was TJ. Yeah. Right down the sideline. And so for a guy that is being talked a lot about, not just this year, but was being talked about a lot last year, I'd love to see him do a little bit more with the hype when we get a chance to see him. That doesn't mean, he's not going to do well, but it does mean that I didn't see anything that extremely wowed me. We'll talk about some of the players that wowed me here in a second as we get to some of that. By the way, I'm just realizing, too, that we set the time at 5 o'clock. That was probably set for Eastern time. This is Central time. So I know that we're starting right at the beginning of a baseball game and stuff like that. So I appreciate you guys hanging out with us on the show right now. Did Jay Fair play? And I saw Holden got a touchdown. Yes, Holden did get a touchdown right there at the end of Landon King, I believe it was. Jay Fair, we saw him a few times today. I didn't see anything that extremely wowed me. And that's the thing about spring games, right? you really need to go into a spring game with zero expectations. You need to go into a spring game understanding that the things that disappoint you and the things that wow you aren't necessarily going to hold over. They might when we get to fall practice, when we get to the games, because rosters are going to change, opportunities are going to change, people are going to get healed up. And also, Holden Gerner, who had an outstanding reps, a quarter, I guess you should say, because he played a lot for that quarter. He had the look of an Auburn quarterback, but people forget, they get excited about that, the excitement of it, but they forget that he's playing against the fourth-string defense. You would hope he'd do that. Not to take anything away from him, but I think it's one of those things of context. We talk about emotions and context a lot, right? We have to put it together. Somewhere it falls in the middle. Devin, I love Auburn football. Yes. Devin, by the way, I know since you're one of our Booster Club members and channel member, here, I wanted to remind you that we saw a lot of our Booster Club members today. Dusty was here. Linda was here. We saw Gray was here, one of our contributors. So we had just like a little Auburn family get together. So hate that you couldn't be here. Anybody, really. Harry says you are my favorite Auburn sports channel. Thank you. Appreciate that. You have a lot of choices out there. We all do things a little bit differently. I hope that my differences give you a little bit of a nice flair there. So, Carrie, thank you so much for those kind words. Carrie also says Ashford got a cannon front arm and it's fast with his legs. Yes, that more so what stuck out to me was his playmaking ability with his legs than his arm. Now, he had a couple of good passes. Some of them were a little behind. The word that continues to be used with Ashford, and I think it's very true, is raw. Very, very true. But you can see the talent is definitely there. Why Auburn's not posting highlights today of A-Day on YouTube? Well, it has only been, they ended the game probably an hour ago at this point. Give them a little bit more time. Spring games, they don't really put a whole lot of effort into in terms of production and things like that. But, the War Eagle Productions crew was out there. So I would suspect you might see something. But, yeah, just give them a little time to get everything together. Our run blocking was bad for this game, but keep in mind you don't have your starter offensive lineman on the field today. Yes, that is true. But it was also bad last year with the starting offensive line in there. Listen, the offensive line story is just going to continue until they can prove the narrative otherwise. There's a lot of people actually, and you'll see, I think it's some, traditional media entities pushing back on the narrative that this offensive line is a liability for this team. And I like to hear that, and I like to hear reasons behind that. But until that is proven out on the field against actual competition, not against yourself in an A-Day game, that narrative is still going to be there. And that indifference that some of us have now towards the offensive line is going to continue to be there. Looking forward to the season, and hopefully we'll see Calzada soon. I think he will be the starter, potentially. So give you a little bit of a preview of what to expect the next week. We'll at least be doing 2 videos, one kind of doing maybe a top 5 takeaways from this game in spring practice, what we take away from that. And then we'll do, as I've told a lot of you, you've been asking, am I going to update my likelihood rating of how probable is each guy to be the starter of Auburn? I came into this day with a certain idea of how that would go, and I walk away today with it changed completely. And that's not necessarily all good or all bad for one quarterback or another. It's just, I think the quarterback race is very much open. And now I know that sounds a little redundant, but it's very much open based off of how people perform today, based off what we're hearing from practice, and what we don't know yet. And Zach Calzada is part of that. My plans to come next year, the planning has already begun. Just have to convince my husband. I will tell you, as of this moment, I probably won't be at the second game. Not that you should plan your trips around me, but there is a chance that I won't be at the second game of the year because there's 5 in a row here at home. So I will be at probably 1, 2, 3, 4. Or excuse me, 1, 3, 4, 5. That's not a guarantee. We'll see. But just keep that in mind. War Eagle from Virginia. Good to see Virginia checking in, Rob. Really like what I saw from Holden Gurner. Very decisive. Yes. One of the things, and there's a gentleman sitting behind me during the game today. I didn't agree necessarily with a lot of their opinions about quarterbacks, but there was one thing that I noticed, and I'm saying this about somebody else to get to Holden. They pointed something out about TJ to me today. TJ has this almost little, it's a pump fake without being a pump fake right before he throws it. And it kind of looks like he's being a little indecisive. And it happened way too often. I couldn't unsee it after they pointed it out. So they were right on that. That's one thing that I think TJ's got to get fixed in his repertoire. What I like about TJ, though, is how involved he was on the sideline, even when he wasn't playing, how he's going out there and celebrating. He was the first one, him and Robbie too, out there to celebrate with Holden Gurner when he, got his touchdown. I mean, there is definitely, at least on the surface, as far as we can see, a camaraderie, a different feel about the team this year. And I like that. I like the fun that they're having. I like the cohesiveness that seems to be there. If that's what we take out of this year, of us kind of riding the ship in terms of those intangible type of things that are hard to kind of get right, that's a huge win. Obviously, that's not going to be satisfying to the fan base as large, and it shouldn't be because we all want to win, but just something to think about. Cam Riley he was on the highlight reel a lot. Marcus Harris really closed up the middle against the run game, against Auburn's second defense, I guess, or offense, I guess it would be. He stuck out to me. Marquise Gilbert at safety had a shot at just the most gimme interception you could probably have and missed that opportunity. So that was a little frustrating. I just talked about Marquise, but Jeffrey Imbo was not. He was not playing today. He was out nursing an injury. Receivers were a big question mark before the game. They looked okay in this game. Couple of drop passes. We're back to being TEU with this. I'm not getting that acronym, but one of the things that will continue to frustrate is if those drop passes continue. What I'm encouraged by is what I saw in terms of people making a name for themselves. And that's been the big question, right? About wide receivers. Who's going to make a name for themselves? Who's going to be the guy? Who wants to be the guy, frankly? And I think there's some guys here today that showed, Shed's going to be on one side of the field. Who wants to be opposite with me? Malcolm Johnson made a case for himself. Came out of obscurity and had himself quite a few catches today. Jay Fair, I noticed a few times. Landon King, who Gray was sitting with me today, our Inside the Jungle podcast host. He and I were watching the game together today, and he pointed out that Landon's warming up with the wide receivers, but also lining up as a tight end. I like that. I like that a lot. I like seeing Landon King out in the field. It's really good. Brandon Frazier, tight end, made a couple of really great grabs. I'm feeling really good about what the tight ends can do to hide some of the deficiencies of some supposed deficiencies our wide receivers might have. I'm feeling a lot better about that now that I'm seeing some of those things. So, Kerry, there are no other spring games. This is it. Usually the path they follow is they start in March, and obviously right here in mid-April they play one spring game. They might have another practice or something like that, but they haven't announced that or anything like that, but it's not uncommon for them to say we're going to have one more practice to clean up the things we saw in the A-Day game. But this is kind of like the big celebratory thing for them. They go showcase what they've been working on, see the new players, so no other spring games. We're going to Missouri game for the season. I'm talking about next year's A-Day. Oh, next year's A-Day. Okay, awesome. Yeah, well, I plan to be here. God willing, I plan to be here. Missouri game, yes, I would plan to be there as well for that game because I believe it's Missouri. It's like Alabama State, something like that. And then I forget the other rinky-dink team that we play, Missouri and LSU, I think it is. So definitely will be in town for those. Yes, he did miss a pick six. You don't know that people say it was a missed pick six, but he missed an interception, and he could have, with his athleticism, turned it into a pick six. You may be talking about a different circumstance, though. Did you agree with the play calling? That's a big overarching question with a lot of different answers to it. To give you a straight answer, it's hard to say I agree with play calling when this isn't the play calling that's going to be necessarily what we see in fall. Was this a shadow of what we would see? Yes. I would need actual, and that's kind of what I was getting at when I talk about be careful what you do or don't take away from a spring game. What I saw out there, I liked a lot of, there was a little bit of hurry up in it. There was some jet sweeps. I'm a no huddle guy. I love the fast paced offense game. So I like seeing some of that involved, but I also like when they slowed it down at times. I like the variety. This felt, when I heard Coach Harsin and people were talking about him being a multiple type of offense guy, this is what I envisioned. And it seems to be matching up. So maybe that better answers your question more directly, is based off what I saw in A-Day, this matched what I kind of saw with Harsin. Great question. Best wide receiver, Malcolm Johnson. If you want to throw Landon King in there as a tight end, I could do that as well, but Malcolm Johnson stood out to me. Running back today, Tank got very few carries, but he caught some passes out of the backfield. Sean Jackson, you can tell he's a guy that plays with a chip on his shoulder, has something to prove, and you got to really appreciate that about him. Really love the kid, love the fight in him, love the energy. Yeah, he seems like he wants to be out there, and that's all you can ask for. Tight end U, maybe. Maybe. We might be. It would be nice. We've been running back U. We've been DBU for a while now. This is not brought to you by Coke. We've been defensive line U. We were at one point offensive line U. That's one of the areas we really haven't done a whole lot with. Didn't Anders return? He did. He's just not all the way back yet. He was out there on the field, kind of walking through guys with some of their reps. Last I heard, he was hitting about 30-yarders or attempting 30-yarders. He can obviously hit them. Probably taking it very slow with that injury. Landon King, Schenker, and Frazier were good, but that catch with 38 seconds left in the game, that was incredible, wasn't it? And that catch Brandon Frazier made on the sideline, I think it was about 5 minutes before that, that was incredible as well. So think about this. In a world where you're still trying to figure out who are the guys at wide receiver, you've got these options, as you pointed out. Schenker, Brandon Frazier, technically Landon King if you just want to call him a hybrid. But you've also got Tyler Fromm, who's shown he can make big plays. Luke Deal, who's shown at times he can be reliable too. I feel very good about where we're at with tight ends. Very good. In fact, that's probably what I walk away with the most secure about after this, is how good of tight ends we have on this and what they can potentially do to mask potential deficiencies of the wide receivers. I'm willing to reserve judgment until we see game time footage of that. Does every college football team have an A-Day? Great question. I would imagine no, but I would imagine every college football team has at least some version of practice, or I guess spring practice. You know, this feels very much like a South thing. Alabama has their version of A-Day, and they call it A-Day too. It gets confusing, but it's out there. And Carrie, no worries, man. This is the place for you to be if you're just getting into this stuff. We're not about being, we're all in the X's and O's here. We'll talk X's and O's, but this is not a place where you should feel bothered if you're not in the know about things. It's a great place to learn. It's what our little family's about. As far as I know, most college football teams have a spring game. Yeah, Devin, I can't think of one readily that doesn't have one, but it wouldn't surprise me. Was Sean Jackson good? He just showed a lot of effort in playing with a chip on his shoulder, meaning like he had something to prove. Neil had a great time. Weather a little bit iffy, so not really what you want for an A-Day weekend. But as I'll be putting together a vlog. That's another video that'll come out of this weekend of my experiences, which will include Friday and Saturday, things we heard, things we saw, those kind of things. You'll get some of that in there. Weather was not ideal outside, even though it is sunny now. The wind and the cold has just been a little bit, but overall, it's been a lot of fun. Thomas says, I'm ready for fall camp. I want to see the final roster before the first game. You got a while to wait. Got to finish out spring semester. And then we will enter, obviously baseball and softball will kind of hold us over until that time. But this is where it starts kind of getting very dry in terms of information and something to satiate. Is that the word? If that's the word. Our appetite for football. June and the early part of July are going to be like the worst thing in the world for unless you got a lot of vacations planned. No, I don't think that our offense will be better at this moment. I think our defense is what's going to really need to carry us, which is a scary proposition based off how they performed last year. But with a fresh start, a fresh defensive coordinator, I see a lot of talent out there. I feel good about cornerbacks. Still got some questions about safeties myself. Linebackers, I think, could potentially be a question, but that defensive line, edge rushing, all looks good. Neil says SDS has an article on A-Day, mostly positive. I think you're going to see a lot of that. I think you're going to see a lot of, wow, this was better than I expected. Because think where we were, and I think that's probably why so many people showed up, even with not so great weather, is they just wanted to see something positive. And it was a little bland at times, a little dull, especially in the first, I think it was like the mid first quarter to start of second quarter. And but when we started letting at Robbie have the ball, and they're playing with a chip on their shoulders too, and Holden, I think that kind of got some people fired up. Baseball's up 1-0. Let's take them down. I will be actually, I'm still on campus, obviously. That's why we're doing this on the road. I will be probably moseying over there to check it out from the upper deck and from the outfield fence. Don't have a ticket today, but I want to go over there and just kind of check in on it and probably take some last-minute pictures and images and stuff like that, so to keep following along with social media. But lots of content coming out from this weekend, whether it's videos here, we'll have podcasts, we're going to have shorts videos, stuff on social media. That's the great thing about coming to campus. I get tons and tons of content. And it gives me a chance to talk to all of you guys about this. Joey Adams-Brooks. What was your biggest surprise today, and who is your favorite quarterback? I think Holden, in terms of just as a freshman, even against, the second, third, and fourth string defense, he showed a lot of talent, and that made me very excited. Robbie also had some great moments. TJ, I don't think, had a great day. I don't think he had a terrible day, but he didn't have a great day. So that would probably answer that. Biggest surprise, Malcolm Johnson Jr. That'd be my biggest surprise. You've been watching Auburn football for 7 years. You're asking me. I've been watching Auburn football since I was a child. No, in terms of me, when I first, other than just being associated because my dad raised us up to be that way, to be Auburn fans, probably the year 2000 was when I first started actually sitting down, watching the games, paying attention, learning names and all that kind of stuff, besides the big ones. So I've been watching it for 22 years as a habit, but I've been a fan my entire life. Or if you're saying you have been for 7 years, that's cool too. You want to be a sports analyst? Well, great. Awesome. Go get it. Go, my advice is don't wait. You don't have to be perfect at it, but just start doing these things. I am not a sports analyst. I am simply a person that loves Auburn and wants to share what I think about it, but also share what you guys think about it. Mowed the lawn today wearing a coat. Look, I would have laughed at you if I saw that one, which makes me feel bad because you and I know we live close to each other up there. So I'm wondering what my weather is like up there. Did you see a difference in quarterback mechanics throwing? Yes. I don't know if you were here earlier. I'll call you BJ. But one of the things that bothers me that was pointed out to me about TJ is this little, and then he throws it. And it's not even a pump fake. It's almost like a hesitation thing. And I'm not a quarterback whisperer. Maybe that's something that works for him. But I don't see it maybe helping his game all that much. So it makes me wonder why that's there, why that hasn't been fixed. I don't know. Robbie, a very good quick decision maker on who's going to throw the ball to or to run the ball. I saw Holden being a very good balance of the two, whereas TJ seems to be a little bit more slower, not in a bad way to make the decision, but also Robbie seems to be quicker. Holden kind of found a happy place for me right there. Not saying he should be the starter, but yeah. September 3rd needs to hurry up. Ready for the first game. We all are. Replacing the production of Roger, Smoke, and McLean. It's going to be tough to do that. It really is. But I have, even after the disappointment of the defensive performance last year, I have a lot of hope and excitement for what the potential of this defense could be based off what I saw today, what I've been hearing. And I like that the guys kind of probably felt like they got disrespected last year, not just by fans' perception, but also the way they performed. So their own doing. I think there's a word I keep using, a phrase, playing with a chip on their shoulder. I think there's going to be a lot of that this year, which is an encouraging thing for a team that's already being not talked about, being called the second most boring team in college football right now. It's a lot to play for and against. Surprisingly, the end zones were not painted for the spring game. Well, we can talk to Clint about that. No, they typically do not do a lot. Like for instance, this is a lower key event. Let me just put it to you this way. I was out on the field at the end of the game. Normally they do an autograph session. They didn't do one, but they didn't place any guards at the ways to get down to the field level. And a lot of people just started going down there. And so I followed. So I was down there. There'll be some of that in the YouTube video. There's just not a lot of effort put into like the aesthetics, the experience of it. They had like not even half of the refreshment carts opened up. So they're not going to do things like that. Why don't you think the offense will be much better this season? Just curious your thought process. Well, let me clarify. I don't know that it's not. I think the question where I answered that was, which do you think will be better? I think the defense will be better. But if you're asking me why don't I think the offense will be better, I really sound like a broken record, but it just comes back to that offensive line. It really does. And until they can show me they can consistently get the run game going, first of all, if they can do that, they're in a great starting place. It's going to give a lot of confidence to whoever the quarterback is. That's really what it hinges on. And I think the questions on top of the wide receivers make me a little bit hesitant. But what I saw today out of what the tight ends and some of the other wide receivers we saw today can provide, that encourages me a lot. But in terms of comparing those two, like I was asked earlier, the defense just, I feel like, is in a better spot in the offense simply just because of uncertainty. That's probably where my mindset goes to, Devin. Best years watching was Cam Newton at his school. Yep, that was a good one. You think 7-6 this year again? You think we can have a better record this year or no? I think we can. I think it's very, very possible. Auburn is very much a team that should expect to never go below 8-4. We got to see, though. So, and I guess, Connor, one question I would ask everybody, why does everybody think that Calzada is going to be the starter? I'm not saying I don't agree, but right now, we're just going off of speculation and what he did at Texas A&M, which is really good. That's a really good resume for him. But for me, it's a very much a moving target for me with quarterback right now. I don't think we should assume anything as this moment. I think any one of these guys with the right amount of time can take the job. And that's a really good problem to have, frankly. Did we win? Well, Russell, the question would be, what's your perspective? If you're an Auburn fan or a Tigers fan today? I find myself in both camps. So, yes, I won. Think Harsin's a good coach, but also felt bad for him after what happened. Yeah, that was a tough situation, Kerry, real tough. Yes, Walker, we were down a few of our offensive linemen. Saw Brandon Council was on a little cart. Nick Brahms was dressed fully, though I never saw him participate. Austin Troxel was on the side, and I think that was it. I could be wrong. But it's given a lot of other guys opportunities. So, yes. We will always be the hardest schedule. I agree. Best year was Cam. You should go revisit the 2014. Well, what Kerry was saying before you got here, he's kind of a newer Auburn fan, so that makes sense that Cam would be his best. There's always going to be that debate. Which team would have won, 2004 over the 2010? It's a tough one. It's very much a tough one. I don't think he will. He was a 56 completion quarterback at Texas A&M. Yeah, the completion thing could be a little bit of a question. It could be a little bit of a problem. But the great thing is that was at Texas A&M, not here. Now you're coming to a school where there's a recent history of wide receivers dropping every ball that's thrown to them, so that should worry you too. But it's a new year. Let's see what happens. Quentin, good to see you. Where are you going to fill Auburn fans? Should have took the day off, had to get the money. Man, I missed a good one. Yeah, it was, I think, if you come into A-Day expecting to be wowed and amazed, and wow, this is the best in terms of just the football game, you're going to walk away disappointed. But if you come enjoying just the whole aspect of it all, being here on campus, treating it like it's a mini game day, and there were people actually out tailgating today. There were people, like 2 or 3 RVs out at the lots where they normally park for game days. And I like to see that. And I wish we could get to a place as a fan base where we start treating it more like that, because I think it would be this is a big recruiting tool for us, for the football program. Lots of recruits come to A-Day. Imagine if they saw RVs just lined up just for A-Day. That'd be great. It'd be an instant seller. A lot of people showed up for Tiger Walk today. By the way, we did a live stream of that. Go check it out. I think it was really good. I forget the player, 55, I think. Just like screamed right in front of the camera as he came under the thing. It was a great live stream. You know, I thought it was going to be kind of a little bit quiet one, but it was a good one. First 5 games at home, that shook out pretty well for us. I loved a tweet I saw about our record will be 12-0 until we aren't. That's a great perspective to have. Or as Harsin likes to say, you know, we're just focus on being 1-0 today. One of the other things too, it can be both an advantage and a disadvantage. Yes, it is great to have 5 home games in a row, just to be here. In terms of a guy who loves football weather, which would almost be this weather today, with a little less wind, you would kind of want to have some games at home in October, and we basically have none because of the way that schedule shakes out. I think the perfect schedule personally is home, away, home, away, home, away, home, away. That way there's a pattern formed. Everybody knows what to expect. Everybody can plan on that, but it's going to get hard for people to justify coming 5 weekends in a row But I think if the team starts performing well, that won't matter if people will want to be here and be a part of it. Carrie, I know I look old, but I am not that old. I was not alive when Bo Jackson was at Auburn. His last year was 85, I believe, and I was born in 87. I wish I had, though. My dad didn't go to Auburn, but he was coming to Auburn a lot and going to away games as well when Bo was here. Yes, Devin, and that's why I love you. And I think for the most part, what we try to do on this channel is play, both sides of the equation with a trend towards the positive, because there's so much negativity on Twitter and just social media in general, and just fan bases, and you can just hear it in the stands sometimes. And that to me is like, why? It's not helpful. When you leave constructive criticism, it's just not helpful. So I love people like you, Devin, that continually see to look at that. And the whole insult of being a sunshine pumper, it's like, so you're mad at me for being a happy person? I don't know. That's a story for another day. Russell says, talking about Calzada, the short videos of practice, the way the ball came off Calzada's hand was extremely impressive. Think Finley would start today, but Calzada is to start in September. You could be right. Again, but that's in practice in very neutralized situations. I want to know what happens when he comes into a game. We've seen it at Texas A&M, but we'll find out. Something positive about the O-line is we have depth. Yes. And especially I think that depth got some extra work as of late in practice and at A-Day. The depth breeds competition. It only makes you better. Great point. What style defense are we using? I'll be honest with you, Unbeaten Lake. I found myself mainly focused on the offense today, and I really didn't pay attention a whole lot to the defense. The way I have heard it and seen it during spring practice, it is going to be a hybrid of what they were doing last year and moving to something maybe a little bit more manageable. So unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to give you a very strong answer on that. There's a lot of offensive talk on this thing, because that's kind of going back to what we were talking about earlier when Devin was asking the question, why do I think the offense would be as much of a positive for this team? Kind of goes back to that, the uncertainty of it. So there's more intrigue there. Oh, great question, Neil. Love these questions. You guys got some great questions today. See, this is why I love this group. The people here on this channel, y'all have great questions. Compare this A-Day to last. Are you more confident or less? That's a good question. I would say I am less confident compared to last year. But I don't want that to sound like I think that this team is going to be worse. I don't want that to sound one way or the other. But if you're asking me to compare, the two, where I felt, then I felt pretty good with it, because we knew what we had. We knew what we had in Bo. We knew we had some solid backups behind him, or in TJ and Demetrius Davis. I felt comfortable there. We thought we knew what we had at wide receiver. Wide receiver was still a bit of a question. We knew what we had in Tank. Offensive line was still a question. So it is actually similar. But we thought that defense was just going to be outstanding. So yeah, it was probably more confident last year. Great question though. Carrie, man, we got to get you here. Tailgating is just basically everybody hanging out and having fun before a football game. You see people with tents outside, grilling out burgers or hot dogs or whatever. It's not even that. I mean, there's people that have full-on smorgasbords out here. I mean, it's just everybody having a good time if you see the crowds out here, that's what it is. Walker, I love the A-Day atmosphere today. So you were here. Any other thoughts from you, sir, Walker? I love today. I think it was a great atmosphere. James, what's up? Just excited that football is back and we have some competition at the quarterback position. It will be fun to follow the rest of the offseason. 1983 was a really good year too. We only lost one game, played the hardest schedule in the SEC. We used to with, Alabama, obviously, Georgia, Florida, Tennessee. It was ridiculous. Of course, Bo Jackson was a big part of that. How was the food in the stadium? It was stadium food. They have Conecuh sausages in there, so those are really good. It's just a hot dog. I had Guthrie's chicken for the first time in forever. The new one downtown. Great place in there. If you haven't been, they're not even a sponsor of this, but I'm going to throw them a bone here. Listen, downtown Guthrie's, nice place to eat. It's at the old place where the Santa Freeze used to be. This is an ice cream shop from way back in the day, way before my time. It's like historical. I'm going to be eating there again. And what else did I have here while I was here? I ate at the baseball game last night. I will probably go... I'll probably go to Mama Goldberg's for dinner. It's the sandwich shop. Let's see here. 15-0. Love it. Love it. We'll see, though. That shirt Harsin wore in his press conference today was awesome. Old school AU Eagles. Always lit. So I haven't had a chance to watch his press conference yet, so I will have to go back and look at that stuff. Neil, I know I sound young, but I mean, look at the hairline. If Holden can really get comfortable with the playbook, he will be a real factor in the quarterback. I think he's a factor now. I truly do. I walked away from today having to make some hard choices about when I make this video, the percentage of who starts, likelihood, who it's going to be. It's going to be tough. Keep the comments and questions coming, guys. You guys are putting some good stuff out there. I could not believe the negative comments on Twitter about spring game. Yeah, so the thing, you and I have talked about this. We've all talked about this. People these days on Twitter want to hide behind a moniker and get they want the reaction. It's kind of like it's a drug to them. So, yeah, I just don't want to be part of that. You can be constructively critical, which I try to be, but also pleasant at the same time. Kyle, do I buy the shirt? You can buy the shirt. Yes. Great segue. In the link for this show and all of our videos, there are links down there you can click. This is the TeePublic link, or TeePublic store. It's there available right now. Yes, so this is our logo shirt, but there's also other ones there that we have that we've created, that others have created. Go over there and check it out. I encourage you to do so. Every little proceed helps us do things like this. Grew up with Jim Fife. Oh, man, that just... on the radio in the James of the Jefferson Pilots. That was me, too. That was me. Any thoughts on the defense? Quentin, I addressed this a little earlier. Unfortunately, I've now realized that I focused way too much watching the offense and didn't really watch the defense a whole lot. Big thing, Marquise Gilbert. I thought, he dropped a surefire interception. Looked like everybody was flying to the ball today, and Marcus Harris and that front middle of the defensive line impressed me today. Gotta love how it got better towards the end, unlike previous years. Well, just to give you some context, though, Lee, you're also playing against the lesser defense too by that time. So, not to pour, I guess, salt on the wound there, or to be a Debbie Downer, but just trying to put context with everything. Did you hear an attendance total? I bet they announced it, but I missed it. I'm sure it's out there somewhere. I would guess we hold almost 88,000. I would guess 20,000 showed up today. It was not bad. Like I said, I think it was a good showing, considering everything. Carrie, happy birthday. Everybody's wishing happy birthday to Carrie. Good to see that you're here hanging out with us. Appreciate you spending some time with us. Press conference, Devin, will be available online. There are a lot of different media entities that share it as well, but I'm pretty sure. In fact, if you follow Auburn Tigers or Auburn football on Facebook, usually they have them up there live for you. Oh, man. right now, I know this is like not even A-Day really related. All right, Mama Goldberg's. You have to do that. You got to do Guthrie's chicken. You got to do Whataburger, not Whataburger, Cheeseburger downtown. I know Mellow Mushroom's a chain, but there's something about the Auburn one too. You got to go to Toomer's, and you can get food there, but you got to get the lemonade. And then you got these fancy restaurants all over the place, like that's not fancy, but Acre, Amsterdam Cafe. There's tons of great food here in Auburn. Baumhauer's, Victory Grill. It's endless. Let's see here. Trying to catch up on some of these comments real quick. I agree with you on that. Holden has a quick release and he's very accurate from the sample size we saw today. He's an athletic. Yes, he is. How did Robbie Ashford do? I couldn't watch. He seemed very athletic. Threw the ball behind a couple of times, but the wide receivers still caught it. I liked his quick decision making, but maybe sometimes that can be a little too quick. Need to let things set up. I thought Holden was the fine balance between the two of them. All right, I'll take a few more comments here, but we're kind of going back and forth on some of the things we've already covered a little bit, but won't rush off here. But go ahead and get your keep them coming. A couple reminders, we already talked about it. Check out the links in the description. One of the things you can do is you can become a channel member here by hitting the join button. For $1 a month, that's all it takes. You get access to icons next to your name. It kind of like says, hey, I'm special. And it grows over time. The different your icon changes the longer you stay there. It's easier for me to see your comments because there's a thing next to it. And then you get access to these little emojis you can use in the chat. So that's one thing that you can do to help support our content. So check that out. And thank you to our channel members who do that. Several of you are here right now. 25,000. So it's right on the money. Look at that. Roughly. Which is impressive. Kyle, do you watch the NBA draft? I will this year. Definitely will this year with 2 players going in it. Yes. That is my answer. If there is Auburn in it, I watch it. Shoney's, Rand says. I didn't know there was a Shoney's here still. There used to be Mike and Ed's barbecue. That was good. When is my birthday? May 27th. So coming up pretty soon. Waffle House. Don't knock the Waffle House. Spent many nights there in the middle of a studying binge. 25K is strong. Would have thought 30 to 40 would have showed, but everyone will see the light in 5 months. I don't think it had really, I think it had less to do with that, but also the weather too. And to be honest, this used to be free or $5 and it keeps going up in price. So, Carrie, I do not have the final score. I believe was 10-9. I think. I don't have children yet. We hopefully will in the future. Do you think Auburn can make a run in baseball? I'll take this real quick, even though it's not football related. They have been playing good of late. I think they can. Will they is the bigger question. They're showing a lot of life against teams they should beat and teams they have that are ranked higher than them that they have the capability to beat, like Vanderbilt today. So far, knock on wood. But we'll find out. All right. All right, guys, I think I am going to head off after that, but thank y'all so much. Great crowd here for A-Day. Stay tuned to the channel. Make sure you hit that notification bell, the subscribe button so you don't miss anything. Got a lot of stuff coming out after this here on YouTube, on our podcast, and on social media. And stay tuned the rest of the day. I should be doing a few more things as I kind of wrap up my time here on campus. It's been a great A-Day experience and everything that is great about Auburn. Baseball, went to tennis, football, the people, and of course, you guys can't miss comments like that. You guys are the best little family within the Auburn family, and I appreciate you guys so much for hanging out with us. Until then, War Eagle.